The Center for Philosophy of Religion presents Human Freedom and Divine Foreknowledge. If God exists, He is present at every time in history, and He knows everything that can be known at each time. Many people think God's knowledge extends to what will happen in the future. For example, that God knew 1,000 years ago that Carl would climb Mount Baker today. Knowledge requires belief. And so, God also believed 1,000 years ago that Carl would climb Mount Baker today. And surely Carl can't now do anything about what God believed way back before he was born. Carl also can't do anything about the fact that God is never, in fact, can't be wrong in what he believes. So, given that God believed before Carl was ever born, that Carl would climb Mount Baker today, and given that God can't be wrong, it seems that Carl doesn't have the power to do anything other than climb Mount Baker today. Genuine freedom, though, would require that Carl possess both the ability to climb and also the ability to refrain from climbing. Thus, it would seem Carl is not free after all. Does God's foreknowledge really conflict with Carl's freedom and ours in this way? Some think the best way to handle this threat to freedom is to hold that future claims aren't true yet and so can't be known in advance, or that God refrains from foreknowing to make room for freedom, or even that God is outside of time altogether. Alvin Plantinga has argued there is a better solution. Of course, Carl can't change the past, and maybe that's why it seems like God's past beliefs are outside of his control. But not so fast. What would control over God's past beliefs really require? Perhaps just this, that Carl has an ability to do something other than climb, say, to go swimming instead, an ability he won't use, and that God knew in advance he wouldn't use. Yes, but if Carl has an ability, he could have used it. So what would have happened if he had used the ability and stopped climbing to go swimming instead? Well, in that case, God would always have had a different belief. If Carl had refrained from climbing and gone swimming, then 1,000 years ago, God would not have had the belief that Carl would climb today, but would instead have had the belief that he would go swimming today. And, as Plantinga has argued, this removes the threat that God's foreknowledge seems to pose for our free will, without denying that God always knows what we will do in advance. To learn more about these ideas, please visit plantingavideos.com.